Hello, brothers and sisters. How are you doing? Sorry I haven't been around for a while. I have been sick since Wednesday. Um, I'm still feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm feeling a lot better. I just mostly a lot of gunk in my lungs and pressure in my sinuses. But I am doing a lot better. And unfortunately, while I was sick, I was in so much pain I could not concentrate on reading or even I trust me, I tried to attempt to read. I read the same thing, same paragraph like 4 or 5 times, and it was driving me nuts, so I quit. Did a lot of sleeping. So to continue where we were, we are going to be doing the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith as part of the Come Follow Me curriculum for 2024. We are doing the Book of Mormon, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I really enjoy the testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith on the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. Yes, there are several variants, and that's fine. That's fine. Paul had several, when he told his story, there were several versions of what happened. There's 3 different versions. Don't believe me? Check it out in Acts. And it's great, but it's all consistent. Now, there are 4 different stories about his testimony, but with the testimony, actually, the first vision is the one that has 4. This one has a couple, and one of them I'm going to read from the Standard of Truth. This is the first book in church history. If you haven't read them, I highly recommend. They're very good. But let's start. Joseph Smith, I love it how he starts off by saying he took himself to prayer and supplication to the Almighty God. This right here shows that Joseph Smith had faith in God. And while he was praying, listen to what he says. While I was thus in the act of calling upon God, I discovered a light appear in my room, which continued to increase until the room was lighter than at noonday, when immediately a personage appeared at my bedside, standing in the air, for his feet did not touch the floor. That's pretty cool. He had a loose robe of most exquisite whiteness. It was a whiteness beyond anything earthly I had ever seen, nor do I believe any earthly thing could be made to appear so, exceedingly white and brilliant. Now he goes on to describe what it looks like on him. And I love these details because when we see angels, this is paintings or pictures of angels. This is generally what it looks like. He says, his feet were naked, as were his legs, a little above the ankles. His head and neck were also bare. I could discover that he had no other clothing on but this robe, as it was open so that I could see into his bosom. And then he continues on saying, not only was his robe exceedingly white, but his whole person was glorious beyond description, and his countenance truly like lightning. The room was exceedingly light, but not so very bright as immediately around his person. When I looked upon him, I was afraid, but the fear soon left me. And this actually fits in with all the biblical writings that we know, when an angel appears to someone, they get scared. We see Moses, when the Lord appears before him, he's scared. When Paul or Saul, when he was on the way, he was when the Lord appeared to him, he was scared. And this is a very common thing. We see it a lot in the scriptures, and that's because this is something that we're not used to. Okay, it's not normal. All right, let's continue. He called me by name, and he said that he was from the presence of God, and that his name was Angel, and he had a message for him. And he continues, said that God had a work for me to do, and that my name should be had for good and evil among all nations, kindreds, tongues, or that it should be both good and evil spoken of among all people. Now, this is fulfilled multiple times a day. For me, I see it fulfilled several times while I'm going through Facebook or YouTube. And I actually asked one guy who was speaking evil of Joseph Smith, and I said, how does it feel to know that you're fulfilling prophecy? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, here's a prophecy that the angel Moroni gave to Joseph Smith. And I quoted this. I never heard back from him. He did not listen. He did not respond at all. Sometimes they don't really like it. All right. Now we're going to go a little further, because here it talks about the Book of Mormon, some things that's with it, the breastplate, the Urim and Thummim, the silver bow, and the Liahona. And he goes on. He says, when I got those he told me that when I got those plates of which he had spoken, I should not show them to any person, neither the breastplate with the Urim and Thummim, only to those whom I should be commanded to show them. If I did, I should be destroyed. Now, if Joseph Smith was making up this story, he wouldn't have included something where he would have been destroyed if he shares it. That's not, I would never. And if you say you would, you're. Anyways, let's continue. He continues talking about where it goes, and then the conduit opening up and closing. And he this is what he says. He says, I lay musing on the singularity of the scene, marveling greatly at what had been told to me by this extraordinary messenger. But what happens? The same angel appears and repeats verbatim the exact same message. But then he adds, he informed me of great judgments which were coming upon the earth, with great desolations of famine, sword, pestilence, and that these grievous judgments would come on the earth in this generation. Having related these things, he again ascended as he had done before. Okay, so this is the second visit. And then, as he is thinking about this, he records, so deep were the impressions on my mind that sleep had fled from my eyes, and I lay overwhelmed in astonishment at what I had both seen and heard. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm reading a good book, it doesn't matter which book, if I'm really into it, sleep leaves my eyes. I'm wide awake. I'll read that book all night long, because especially if it's one that's of the nature of learning more about the gospel, about the scriptures. Sometimes I get so wrapped in them, I won't even sleep. I have to remind myself to go to sleep. But as he's sitting there, the same thing happens. His room starts to get light. Moroni reappears. This is going to be the third time. Now, he repeats verbatim again the exact same words he did before, including the judgments. But then he adds more. He says, and added a caution to me, telling me that Satan would try to tempt me in consequences of the indigent circumstances of my father's family, to get the plates for the purpose of getting rich. This he forbade me, saying that I must have no other object in view in getting the plates but to glorify God, and must not be influenced by any other motive than that of building his kingdom. Otherwise, I would not get them. Now see, here, Joseph Smith is being human. The angel Moroni, or God, knew what would happen, and the angel Moroni came and warned him. Now, remember this, because later on, this is very important, going to be very important. So remember this. All right. So now, as the angel Moroni finishes warning him of the indigents, and if he doesn't have a mind single to the glory of God, that he's not going to get the plates. So he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, everything's going in. Angel Moroni leaves. Guess what happens? The cock crows. It's morning time. The entire interviews, all three of them, took the entire night. So if they were following the old farm life, bed would have been 8, 9. And as soon as the sun rises and the cock crows, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. If you're lucky, 6. Now, that's a long time to be having an interview. So, anyways, so Joseph Smith got up and he continued the labors of the day. Well, as he continued going, his father realized something was wrong and ordered him to go home. Well, as he was getting ready to cross the fence to go home, he collapsed and passed out. And he says, the first thing that I can recollect was a voice speaking unto me, calling me by name. I looked up and beheld the same messenger standing over my head, surrounded by light, as before. He then again related unto me all that he had related to me the previous night. So he told him about the book, the breastplates, the judgments, warning him about trying to get rich off the plates. And then he adds, he said, and commanded me to go to my father and tell him of the vision and commandments which I had been given. Now, put yourself in Joseph Smith's shoes. You just had, what was it, 7 hours, 8 hours of 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 8 hours of 3 visions, and then you had the same vision. I mean, I wish we had a word to word of what Moroni had actually said. To me, that would be really cool. Okay, so next, Moroni tells him to go tell his father. So Joseph Smith goes and tells his father of the vision. Well, his father actually believes him and tells him to go where the angel had told him. Now, I remember earlier the warning about the angel Moroni, that the angel Moroni gave him, about he must have a singleness of God. That must be his purpose. His mind must be one towards God, or else he wouldn't get it. He mustn't think of getting the gold plates for anything but for the glory of God. Now, that's a very fascinating thing. Now, when Joseph Smith gets to the place where the plates are, where he was shown the vision, he digs around the stone and he removes it. And there he sees the plates. Now, in this version, it doesn't go into the full of what's going on. That's where I want to turn to this. Now, if you go to part 1, and this is going to be chapter 3. I'm going to read bits and pieces starting on page 25. I'm going to read the second and third paragraph. And then on page 26, I'll read the first, third, and some of the others. Now, one thing to remember is, there's going to be more, trust me. All right, so Joseph thought about the plates as he walked. Even though he knew they were sacred, it was hard for him to resist wondering how much they were worth. He had heard tales of hidden treasure protected by guardian spirits, but Moroni and the plates were described were different from these stories. Moroni was a heavenly messenger appointed by God to deliver the records safely to his chosen seer, and the plates were valuable not because they were gold, but because they witnessed of Jesus Christ. Still, Joseph could not help think that he now knew exactly where to find enough treasure to free his family from poverty. Now see, this is giving Joseph Smith a very human. There's times people put our prophets and apostles on a pedestal that seems higher than they need to be. Here he was showing that he was very much human. Even though he was warned, he was a kid. He was a teenager, 14 years old. He still thought about how he could help his family get out of the poverty with these plates. Okay. Now we turn over to page 26, and it reads, Joseph wondered again how much the plates were worth. He reached for them. Mind you, this is when he's removed it. He saw the plates. He's amazed at all the things. Joseph wondered again how much the plates were worth. He reached for them and felt a shock pulse through him. He jerked his hand back, but then reached for the plates twice more and was shocked each time. Hello? You get shocked once, but yet you're dense enough to go for him twice, 2 more times? Were you expecting something different? No. His mind was not set upon the things of God. This goes to show you that he was very human. He thought of his family, which is admirable, but he forgot where the angel had told him, what he had told him, that Satan will tempt him, and that's what was going on. Satan was tempting Joseph Smith to try and get the plates for their monetary, worldly value. All right? Now, after the third time, Joseph Smith asks himself, why can I not obtain this book? He cried out loud. He cried out, because you have not kept the commandments of the Lord, said the voice nearby. Joseph turned and saw Moroni at once. The messenger from the night before flooded his mind, and he understood that he had forgotten the record's true purpose. He started to pray, and his mind and soul awoke to the Holy Spirit. Okay? Now, I'm going to read some more just because these are good things. Look, Moroni commanded. Another vision unfolded before Joseph, and he saw Satan surrounded by his numberless hosts. All this is shown, the good and the evil, the holy and the impure, the glory of God and the power of darkness, the angel declared, that you may know henceforth the two powers and never be influenced or overcome by the wicked one. Okay? Now, something that the Joseph Smith testimony here says. Okay, now here's what the official translation testimony says. I made an attempt to take them out, but was forbidden by messenger, and again informed that the time for bringing them forth had not yet arrived. Neither would it until 4 years from that time. But he told me that I should come to this place precisely in 1 year from that time, and that he would there meet with me, and I should continue to come to do so until the time should come for obtaining the plates. Now, here's a little more from what's in here it says. Okay. He instructed Joseph to purify his heart and strengthen his mind to receive the record. If ever these sacred things are obtained, they must be by prayer and faithful in obeying the Lord. Moroni explained, they are not deposited here for the sake of accumulating gain and wealth for the glory of the world. They were sealed by the prayer of faith. Joseph asked when he could have the plates. The 22nd day of September next, Moroni said, if you bring the right person with you. Now, a lot of people think that Emma was the right person. Well, at this time, Joseph Smith, I don't believe, had met Emma. If he had, no, he hadn't met her yet. He doesn't meet her until later. And so the right person originally was supposed to be his brother Alvin. Now, his brother Alvin probably had such great faith and sternness with keeping God's commandments that's why he said he was to come. But as we know, Alvin dies just 3 years later, or 2 years later, and so the angel then tells him the right person would be Emma. Now, as soon as Joseph Smith finally got the plates, he understood why the angel gave him such strict commandments in keeping him safe. He said, for no sooner was it known that I had them than the most strenuous exertions were used to get them from me. Every stratagem that could be invented was resorted to that purpose, persecution became more bitter and severe than before, and multitudes were on the alert continually to get them from me, if possible. But by the wisdom of God, they remained safe in my hands until I had accomplished by them what was required by my hand. When, according to the arrangements, the messenger called for them, and I delivered them up to him, and he has them in his charge until this day, being 2nd of May, 1838. Now, there's so much more to the story of the Book of Mormon, and you could actually read more of his story in the Pearl of Great Price under Joseph Smith history. And I encourage you to go read that. It is a wonderful thing to read. Also, I love this book. I've listened to it multiple times, and I highly recommend it. It's really good. So, some things that we learned about Joseph Smith here is he was very human. He had flaws just like everyone else. He was tempted, even though he was warned that Satan would tempt him. He was still tempted, and then when he tried to get the plates for other than the glory of God, he was restricted from them. Now, these are things that someone would make up, saying, "Oh yes, I went and I couldn't get them." No. If you were going to make up a story, you'd be able to get to them right away. I can't imagine Joseph Smith would want to make up a story like this, because it makes him look like he wasn't paying attention to the angel's message. And I've read many versions of the Book of Mormon. I have an 1830 edition right there, next to the Nag Hammadi. See? Right there. And I've been studying it. It's really a great version to read. I highly recommend it. So, tomorrow, we're going to just go over the brief explanation about the Book of Mormon. This was also not a translation. This is a modern creation that was added later. And then we will start to get into the Book of Mormon itself. So remember, my friends, my brothers and sisters, I love you and I pray for you. And I hope that you have a wonderful evening. I'm going to be playing catch up for the next few days. I guess we're doing 1 Nephi 1 through 5 in Come Follow Me. Let's see. I put this out Tuesday. I may get Sunday, and then I'll just have to keep playing catch up. That's what you get for getting sick. So, you guys have a wonderful day and or evening, and we'll see you tomorrow night. And sweet dreams. Love you guys.